No explanation was given, not a single word. Italy's most powerful defence company had just posted a 400% rise in its stock price. New orders were up 15%. A $1 billion deal with the British military had just been signed, and the man behind all of it was gone. This is the story of Roberto Cingolani, the CEO Giorgia Meloni appointed, the CEO she couldn't control, and the firing that nobody in Rome will explain. Leonardo SP is not just a company, it is Italy's most important defence contractor. It builds warships, fighter jets, missiles, helicopters. It employs tens of thousands of people across the country, and the Italian government owns 30% of it. When Meloni came to power in October 2022, she made a promise. Roberto Cingolani would lead Leonardo. He was a trained physicist, a former government minister, a man with a global vision for Italy's defence future. Meloni chose him personally. She overruled her own defence minister to do it. There was just one problem. Her defence minister didn't want him. Guido Crosetto had a different name in mind from day one. Lorenzo Mariani, a missile specialist, a man who had spent years at MBDA Italia, Europe's most powerful missile house, a man described by insiders as close to Crosetto himself. Meloni overruled her own defence minister. She chose Cingolani anyway. That decision lasted exactly 3 years. What happened in those 3 years? Cingolani built something extraordinary. He signed a joint venture with Turkey's Baykar, the drone manufacturer that rewrote the rules of modern warfare in Ukraine and beyond. He partnered with Rheinmetall to build armoured vehicles on Italian soil. He launched the Michelangelo Dome, a multi-layer air defence system designed to protect Italy from exactly the kind of missile attacks now devastating the Gulf. He also secured a $1.3 billion contract for 23 military helicopters with the British Armed Forces, a deal that cemented Leonardo's place at the top table of European defence. The stock market noticed every single move. Leonardo shares rose 780% since 2022. In the last year alone, they gained 35%. In 2026, even before the removal was confirmed, they were up another 15%. Investors from London to New York called Cingolani one of Europe's most capable defence executives. One activist investor described him as doing a fantastic job positioning Leonardo as a consolidator in Europe's fragmented defence sector. And then, 3 weeks after presenting his ambitious 2026 to 2030 industrial plan, a plan projecting annual orders of €32 billion by 2030, he was gone. No explanation, no performance review, no press conference, no public statement from Meloni's government, just a name on a list submitted by the Finance Ministry to the Board of Directors. Lorenzo Mariani, Crosetto's original choice. The man Meloni had rejected 3 years ago, the man who was now being handed the keys to Italy's most important strategic company. The market reacted immediately. Leonardo shares fell 8.1% in a single day. It was the biggest intraday drop in nearly 8 months. Billions of euros wiped from the company's value in hours. Activist investor Guy Weiser-Pratt went public with his fury. "If it ain't broke, don't fix it," he told Bloomberg. "This is political interference. It risks harming shareholders and undermining market confidence in Italy." Carlo Calenda, senator and leader of the Azione party, posted on X within hours. "It is absurd to remove Cingolani like this without any explanations in a sensitive sector where he was appreciated by investors and partners. And it is necessary for the government to clarify whether there are reasons of security or performance." The government said nothing. Crosetto, cornered by journalists outside the chamber, posted a cryptic response on his official X account. "Politics does not judge the performance of a CEO," he wrote. "The numbers and the markets do." Then he deleted the post. Why did Meloni fire a CEO who had quadrupled the company's value? The sources who spoke to Bloomberg describe a fundamental mismatch. Cingolani had built a vision around the future of warfare: cybersecurity, digitalization, non-kinetic programs, advanced systems. He believed that the next generation of conflict would be won in the digital domain, not just on the battlefield. But with wars raging across the Middle East and Ukraine, the Italian government wanted something different: missiles, tanks, ships, hard kinetic power, weapons that could be produced fast and delivered faster. And there was something else, something the government refused to say out loud. Bloomberg's sources describe Cingolani as occasionally reluctant to follow the implicit rules of working within Meloni's government. He displayed a quality that, in the world of Italian state-controlled companies, is considered dangerous: independence. In Meloni's Italy, independence has a price. The files go deeper. Italian media reported specific points of tension: resistance to certain technology transfers requested by Saudi Arabia, disagreements over co-production arrangements with foreign partners, internal appointments at Leonardo that went against the preferences of the Defence Ministry, a CEO who had his own strategic vision and was not afraid to defend it against political pressure. The government controls 30% of Leonardo. It controls the board. It controls the CEO appointment. But for 3 years, it could not fully control Roberto Cingolani. On April 9, 2026, that problem was solved. Lorenzo Mariani will take over as CEO. He is expected to be confirmed at Leonardo's shareholders' meeting in early May. Italy's most important defence contractor will now be led by a man who has spent his career producing missiles, a man whose appointment Crosetto had pushed for since 2022, a man who, unlike his predecessor, is expected to understand the implicit rules of Meloni's Italy. The timing tells its own story. Meloni has just lost a referendum, her first major political defeat in 3.5 years in power. Her coalition is under visible pressure from Salvini. Her bond market is turning against her. Italy's borrowing costs surged 75 basis points in March, the biggest monthly rise since 2022. The country's deficit has already missed its target. She is facing an energy emergency, a war in the Gulf, a fractured coalition, a weakened political standing, and in the middle of all this, she fired Italy's most successful CEO. Not because the numbers were bad, the numbers were extraordinary. Not because the investors were unhappy, the investors begged her to stop. Not because the markets had lost confidence, the markets had made Cingolani one of Europe's most celebrated defence executives. Because in the end, there was one number that mattered more than the stock price, one metric that no industrial plan could fix, one quality that no balance sheet could measure: control. Giorgia Meloni controls the Interior Ministry. She controls the Foreign Ministry. She controls the coalition agenda. She controls the narrative. And on April 9, 2026, she took back control of Leonardo. The question that Rome is now asking quietly in the corridors of power is a simple one. If she will fire the man who quadrupled the value of Italy's most strategic company for the crime of independence, what will she do to the people who challenge her next? Cingolani has not spoken publicly since the announcement. His 2026 to 2030 industrial plan is still on the Leonardo website. The Michelangelo Dome project he launched is still moving forward. The Baykar joint venture he built is still operational. The British helicopter contract he signed is still being fulfilled. He built all of it, and he was removed without a single sentence of explanation. In Italy, that is not unusual. State-controlled companies change leadership when governments change priorities. It has happened before, it will happen again. But what makes this case different is the number: 780%. That is not a CEO who failed. That is not a CEO who lost the market's confidence. That is a CEO who built one of the great European defence success stories of the last decade, and Meloni fired him anyway. Because success, in the end, was never the point. The point was obedience. Subscribe to The Record Room, because the next file is already open.